Right now on Currents News, battling climate change. President Biden looks to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half as Pope Francis calls on us to protect the planet. Plus,
this Earth Day, students are taking environmental matters into their own hands, proving that the littlest among us can make the biggest changes. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
Catholic organizations look to help migrants as they enter the country as a bill is proposed in the Senate to handle the influx at the southern border. And fight to vaccinate, the effort to get shots to underserved communities in the city by bringing it right to them.
About taking care of the planet, and when you think about it, taking care of the planet also means you're taking care of you.
Students in the Diocese of Brooklyn celebrating Earth Day and doing their part to help the environment. Pope Francis and President Biden, just two of the leaders who are also marking Earth Day. The pontiff delivering a message to the faithful and the commander-in-chief holding a global climate summit. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. We have team coverage on Earth Day. President Biden is pledging to cut America's greenhouse gas emissions in half by the end of the decade. We begin with Steve Nannis on the ambitious plan.
President Joe Biden addressing day one of a virtual climate summit.
No nation can solve this crisis on our own. Scientists tell us that this is the decisive decade.
And making a giant promise, committing the U.S. to cutting its 2005 emission levels by 50 to 52% by 2030 and creating millions of jobs by doing it. 40 other world leaders are participating in the summit, many making big pledges of their own.
Our new climate target for 2030 is to reduce our 2005 emission levels by 40 to 45%.
We will strictly control coal-fired power generation projects. We will strictly limit the increase in coal consumption.
President Biden and I are launching the India-US Climate and Clean Energy Agenda 2030 partnership.
Biden has made climate change an essential part of U.S. foreign policy and national security since taking office. He quickly re-entered the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, which former President Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out of. And with this White House summit, Biden showing again how important the issue is to his administration.
We're looking for other countries to make big commitments as well. That's what this big, bold, but achievable commitment from the president today is going to help us do.
In Washington, Steve Nannis, Currents News.
Pope Francis, meantime, sending his own Earth Day message, an urgent call to action for Catholics around the world.
La naturaleza no perdona más. Y cuando se gatilla esta destrucción de la naturaleza, es muy difícil frenarla, pero todavía estamos a tiempo. Y vamos a ser más resilientes cuando trabajemos juntos, en lugar de hacerlo solo.
The remarks come as the church celebrates a special Laudato Si anniversary year. The Holy Father's encyclical discusses how Catholics can better shape the future of our planet. Children in the Diocese of Brooklyn are doing their part to help the environment. Each student at Bay Ridge Catholic Academy had to research something that impacts the earth. Jessica Easthope spoke with some of them as they took part in projects to protect the planet.
Help our planet.
Earth. It's the third planet from the sun.
Because it is something that is good for the earth.
But at Bay Ridge Catholic Academy, it's number one.
When you think about it, taking care of the planet also means you're taking care of you.
How he's taking care of all the plants.
On Thursday, students made promises they'd stay committed to the environment longer than the 24 hours of Earth Day.
A lighter blue.
There was a different STEM project happening in every classroom. Some were testing the pH balance of the water we drink. Others were getting their hands dirty.
There's some mud.
Trying out the effectiveness of natural cleansers instead of harsh chemicals. Even the solution used to sanitize the school during the pandemic is all natural. Older students like Jared Javier weren't recycling topics.
For the entire mission.
They came up with new research projects. His bright idea was light pollution.
Birds migrating during the wintertime when they need to go to hotter places, they'll see the light and they'll crash into buildings and it could kill off the species.
The younger students got just as passionate and sometimes emotional about the damage done to the planet and God's living creatures. Julian FIGUERAS researched the overfishing of sharks and what happens when they're killed for their fins.
It's not what it does, it's what's after it. The fishers just throw it back into the ocean.
So how much are you
Earth Day at Bay Ridge Catholic is a big deal. Principal Kevin Flanagan says keeping the planet healthy starts in the classroom.
We want to inspire students to take an active role in changing the world.
To get his point across, Mr. Flanagan suited up and became Mr. Frogigan. Hey guys! He's putting the environment into a context kids can understand, but he doesn't shield them from the real issues.
7 years ago, they discovered a new species of frogs in Brooklyn, and I wonder how long that will be possible. We want students to understand problems like that.
Open up big, really big.
These kids are making the earth their own.
Okay, lift it up.
And want to be proud of how they leave their mark. In Bay Ridge, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
What a fun day. Across the country, states are marking Earth Day. The South Carolina Floodwater Commission is planting at least 3 million tree seeds across the state. The project kicked off at the governor's mansion Thursday morning. Officials say it's the largest single-day tree planting event in American history. And stay tuned, the gardening specialist at the Franciscan Montessorri Earth School in Oregon, MARC BOUCHER-COLBERT, will speak about his work and the positive effects of gardening a bit later in the newscast. Now to the latest on the vaccine rollout. Almost 7 million doses have been administered in New York City, but some communities continue to fall behind others. Church groups are working to fill any gaps in availability. Emily Druby has more on their efforts from the Bronx.
A big moment for Vanessa Santiago. She's being vaccinated.
I was here last month and now I'm back for my second dose.
It's a godsend. The nonprofit school employee had a hard time finding a slot in her neighborhood.
Everyone's trying to get their vaccine. And so, doing a wait list or even going online to the DOH or the CDC website, it just kept, every time I kept going in, there was no appointments available.
Her shot coming from a Catholic Charities of New York vaccine distribution event held at the community center of an affordable housing development in the Bronx, providing access to people like longtime resident Salvador Carrasco.
Very helpful this way. I don't have to go out, just bring it to my door.
About half of adults in New York City have yet to receive their first COVID shot. Right now, there's a lot of available appointments, but people are facing other kinds of roadblocks.
The reality is that you want to go where people are at. There are still barriers to people getting appointments and also getting to the locations.
Richard ESPINAL of Catholic Charities New York added that, for example, getting to Yankee Stadium, a large vac site in the Bronx, can be almost impossible from certain areas. There's also tech barriers to consider.
There's a city platform, there's a state platform. Getting to those different sites and navigating all that could be very confusing for a lot of folks, particularly if language is an issue, if using the technology is an issue. Things like CAPTCHAs and all those kinds of safeguards, for some folks, are just barriers that we want to try to eliminate.
Events like this helping to eliminate those barriers. 160 people got their second vaccination today. Catholic Charities of New York plans to continue to hold similar events in the future as long as there is a need. In the Bronx, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Faith leaders around the world will be promoting the importance of getting vaccinated next week. The World Council of Churches is taking part in World Immunization Week, which will begin Saturday and last until the 30th. This year's campaign will urge the importance of immunization to bring people together and improve the health and well-being of everyone. And some good news in the efforts for everyone to get the shot. A new study suggests the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines don't pose a serious risk during pregnancy. Among the 35,000 women studied by the New England Journal of Medicine, researchers found the most common side effect from the vaccine was pain at the injection site. Other reported symptoms such as headache, muscle aches, chills, and fever happened less frequently. Also tonight, the man convicted of setting off a bomb beneath the Port Authority bus terminal has been sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Akayed Ullah was arrested in December of 2017 after his makeshift bomb failed to explode, leaving him with serious burns. Those around him suffered minor injuries. In November 2018, a jury convicted Ullah on 6 counts of federal terrorism after a one-week trial. The Senate is set to vote on a bill to combat hate against Asian Americans. The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act would allow the Justice Department to respond faster to them. It would also give guidance to local authorities on how to handle and report hate crimes against people of Asian descent. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer expects the legislation to pass with bipartisan support this week. Oh, and more big news from the Capitol. The House of Representatives approved a bill that would grant Washington, D.C. statehood. Democrats have framed the measure as a civil rights issue, but Republicans point out it's just a power grab. The legislation now heads to the Senate, where it faces an uphill fight. There isn't enough Republican support to get the 60 votes it needs to pass. And in Minneapolis, Daunte Wright, who was shot by a police officer, has been laid to rest. The service taking place at Shiloh Temple. Wright was shot by police during a traffic stop. The officer claims she accidentally reached for her gun instead of her taser. Wright's mother remembering the day he became a father.
The joy that Junior brought to Dante's life was truly amazing. He was so happy and so proud, and he always said he couldn't wait to make his son proud. And Junior was the joy of his life, and he lived for him every single day. And now he's not going to be able to see him.
Katie Wright also emotionally proclaimed, "My son should be burying me." Coming up right here on Currents News, you'll get a look at a new facility that's housing unaccompanied minors entering the U.S. along the southern border. Plus, students using Earth Day to honor COVID-19 victims buried on Hart Island. And have you ever been interested in gardening? One expert tells us how the hobby is a great way to teach happiness and gratitude. And coming up Monday on Currents News, recreational marijuana is now legal in New York.
This is not a good thing for our society in New York or any place else.
What does the new law mean for young adults?
There's still a large chance that you will develop addiction, and that chance is even larger if you start using substances at a younger age.
A Currents News special, Going to Pot, Monday at 7.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
On Capitol Hill, an immigration crisis bill is set to be introduced. The measure would address the Biden administration's handling of the surge of migrants at the southern border, streamline asylum claims, and deter migrants who are unlikely to be approved. The bipartisan bill would also protect unaccompanied minors found along the border. Suspected criminals in Mexico are using drones to carry out attacks against authorities. On Tuesday, 2 officers were injured after drones with explosives dropped from the sky. The country's defense secretary believes drug cartels are behind the attack. The injured officers will be okay. Unaccompanied migrant children will soon be housed in the Long Beach Convention Center in California. It will serve as a temporary shelter for girls 17 and younger and boys under 12. The Department of Health and Human Services says the facility can house up to 1,000 unaccompanied migrant children from the U.S.-Mexico border. The shelter is expected to operate at least through August 2nd. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio, is a leader on immigration. He sat down with former Tablet editor Ed Wilkinson to talk about the current crisis on the border and what needs to get done to fix the situation there in this previously recorded edition of Into the Deep.
Thank you, Christine. And Bishop DiMarzio is with us today. We're lucky to have him because he's an immigration expert. And Bishop, a lot of talk about what's going on at our borders, especially our southern borders today. Seems like a lot more people are applying for asylum here in the United States. Are we heading in the right direction on our migration policy?
Well, certainly the international law tells us when someone presents themselves at your border and has a real fear and applies for asylum, they should be admitted. It doesn't mean they're going to be granted asylum. So we are following international law. And that's something good. At the same time, when you give the wrong signal, saying that we're not going to screen people at the border, then you're going to maybe create a stampede.
Mm-hmm.
I really have always thought that we need to do in-country processing. We need to be in those countries where people are in trouble, or in some neutral place where they can get to it. But making people take perilous journeys, being fleeced by coyotes who take their money and don't guarantee them ever getting to the United States is not the way to do it. We need to do something directly with these people to see who truly has a fear that would give them asylum. There are different ways of doing it, but having people come over the border, then we start to complain that they're being pushed together in one place and there's not adequate care. Of course there's not. It's almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to rethink the system is not working properly.
Mm-hmm. Did President Biden, when he was campaigning, he encouraged people to come to this country and to immigrate. And now he seems to be changing his tune a little bit and saying that we're not quite ready yet, so take your time, don't come right now. Have we sent mixed signals to people who are trying to come to the United States?
What he said is he wanted to reform the immigration system, which I agree with. At the same time, when you say that out to the world, people say, okay, they think the borders are open. The last administration gave a very negative signal so that people stayed away. But when you speak positively, it attracts people. So you have to be very careful about what you say and how you say it, and give the directions clearly. Otherwise, you're going to see this massive influx of people which we can't handle properly, and where then people are going to complain that we're not treating them in the right way. So you've got yourself in a dilemma.
Well, we've been talking about immigration reform in this country for decades, and nothing ever seems to get done. What do we need to get done in order for the Congress to address these problems?
Well, there has to be compromise, and unfortunately, we're a deadlock system. It's all the Congress is thinking about in the Senate of how to beat the deadlock, where one group wins over the other. There's no compromise. Politics is the art of the possible, and the possible that is that can be sustained. You can have a momentary win, but that's not going to last very long if the other side doesn't agree with it.
Yeah.
We need to come together as a country. Politics needs compromise. Compromise that is not something that's permanent. The Holy Father says that in his latest work on Fratelli Tutti. He says compromise is temporary. It fixes the situation in a temporary way so that you can come to a permanent solution in the future. Very wise political advice the Holy Father gave us. I think the Congress and this should understand that.
Okay. Bishop, thanks so much for your insights on immigration.
You're welcome.
And now we're going back to you, Christine, at the news desk.
Thanks, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. SciTech Kids is making seed bombs in honor of the more than 2,000 unclaimed COVID-19 victims buried at Hart Island. A part of their Earth Day celebrations, the Learning Center is inviting children and families to create the seed bombs. They look just like this, and when planted, they'll grow into wildflowers or vegetables. SciTech Kids says seed bombs not only helps beautify the earth, but will also provide food for butterflies and bees. One school in Oregon teaches students how to be missionaries to the community and to the earth by gardening. MARC BOUCHER-COLBERT, the gardening specialist at the Franciscan Montessori Earth School, spoke to Currents News about how you can relate gardening to being a faithful Catholic.
Well, I think we have a duty to take care of the earth. I mean, if we feel like creation is a gift given to us by God, then we have a duty and obligation to take care of it, right? So gardening is really one of the most direct ways that we can take care of the earth and learn to take care of the earth. There's planetary scale catastrophe going on, and we need to be out there in the forefront leading the way. Definitely Laudato Si is a great call to action, but each of us needs to take that into our own lives and decide, how can I become a better steward of the earth? How can I care for these resources more? How can I ensure that resources are distributed justly to everyone on the planet and to all species even? It's not just about the human community, right? Everything is created by God and has a right to live and be here. So, How about the whales? How about all the other creatures? How about the forests? How about how about becoming activists on behalf of all these peoples and other creatures that we share the earth with?
And Mark's big tip for parents trying to get their kids interested in gardening: bring them into the kitchen and get them cooking with fresh fruits and vegetables. I'll try that. Still to come on Currents News, a piece of jewelry more precious than silver or gold, how a 10-year-old girl reunited with her most prized possession. An animal control officer saves 11 ducklings trapped in a storm drain on a California college campus. Their mom alerted people to the situation by quacking loudly for help. After some failed attempts, the officer was able to get the ducklings to come to her by playing sounds of a mother duck on her phone. One by one, the ducklings were coaxed out of the drain and reunited with their own mother. Lost and then found. A 10-year-old girl in Kansas will now sleep easier at night after being reunited with her most prized possession, a necklace with a locket containing her late father's ashes. Braxton Jones was there when she got the good news. It was found.
A piece of jewelry more precious than silver or gold.
It's in a little heart shape, and it has words on it, and it says, "Your wings were ready, but my heart was not."
To others, it's just a necklace, but to AHLEIGA HOFFMAN, it's the closest thing she has to her best friend.
Me and my dad's relationship, it was like we'd go everywhere together. Like we'd go to the swimming pool, to the zoo, to the store. We'd go everywhere together. And losing him is just really hard.
Her dad, Sean, died last December, and on Easter, AHLEIGA got a necklace with his ashes inside of a heart-shaped locket, a chance to keep him close, no matter what.
But when I do have it on, it's like I can go places. I have him close. He'll take care of me.
But since last Thursday, her necklace had been missing. AHLEIGA says she last remember having the necklace just before gymnastics, but after practice, she noticed it was gone. For almost a week now, the pair had been hoping for a miracle.
Oh, I just got a message from JAG Gymnastics. It says, "I have great news. We found the necklace. It is at the front desk with Rachel."
One message from her gymnastics gym, and a half an hour later, AHLEIGA would be reunited with her best friend again.
Yes, I have the angel.
Awesome.
That was Braxton Jones reporting. AHLEIGA says she'll be back at gymnastics practice this week, but she plans to keep her necklace in a safe spot. NASA's Perseverance rover just successfully created oxygen on Mars. It could make human exploration of the planet easier in the future. Perseverance did it by converting the carbon dioxide that's readily available in the red planet's atmosphere. The rover made enough oxygen to sustain an astronaut for about 10 minutes. The experiment was the first test of its kind on Mars using new instruments. Very cool. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.